Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Sagemaker Fridays. As we say, happy Sagemaker Friday. It's wonderful to be back here. It's one of our favorite events. We love Fridays, we love Sagemaker Fridays. And thank you for joining us on this exciting episode of No Code ML for faster decision making. My name is Shyam Srinivasan. I'm based in beautiful Seattle in the Pacific Northwest in the USA. I'm a product manager on the SageMaker Canvas team. I look at AWS AI ML low code, no code solutions, and have been with AWS for about 7 years now. And I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, whom I would request to introduce himself.
Awesome. Thank you, Sham. So, hi everyone. It's great to be back here at SageMaker Fridays. My name is Davide
Hey,
Gallitelli.
Davide.
I'm the worldwide machine learning specialist SA. I'm supporting low code, no code machine learning technologies across the globe for customers across the globe who are willing to use machine learning and, in the specific, low code, no code technologies to simplify the adoption and solving machine learning business problems. Great to be here, Sham.
Awesome. David, are you done?
Yeah.
All right. So, Davide, before we dive into today's topic, I always like to start off with an anecdote, with something fun. Do you want to listen to a fun fact?
Oh, please, I'm all up for fun facts. Please do tell me your fun fact.
Awesome. You know how SageMaker Fridays actually started? It was literally written as, I would like to call my J.K. Rowling inner self. Calling it was written on the back of a paper napkin. A few years back by yours truly. I wrote it on a Friday evening, and I sent it to my leadership at that point, saying that, any live demo is more than worth 1,000 slides. So that's how it got started, and I'm glad to see it here. I'm glad to be back on SageMaker Fridays, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Hey, then what can we say if not happy SageMaker Friday? It's great to be talking about these amazing technologies and these exciting times. Talking about times a little bit, I believe that it was more or less about a year since we talked about Canvas in SageMaker Fridays. I was there together with one of our colleagues, with Jared, and I believe that there's been a lot that has happened in the last year, in the last 6 months specifically. So some people have probably watched the previous video on AWS Online Tech Talks. Other people have not. So for the people who are completely new to SageMaker Canvas, can you tell us, like in a minute, in 2 minutes, what is Amazon SageMaker Canvas and who is it for?
All right. When we launched SageMaker Canvas about 18 months, it's an 18-month baby, a grown baby, a mature baby, a strong baby. We launched it at our biggest cloud event, reInvent, in December of 2021. The goal of Canvas was to extend machine learning, was to truly democratize machine learning to folks beyond the typical technical audience. Machine learning today has grown leaps and bounds. It's there in every nook and corner, be it a small, medium business, a large enterprise. Even in our homes, when we do online shopping, look at our trends of shopping, powering our homes with automation. There's so much that machine learning can do. And so Canvas is a step towards no-code machine learning. What that means is we want to enable user personas of every type, particularly business users like business analysts, data analysts, financial analysts, and what have you, to reap the benefits of machine learning without writing a single line of code. I myself haven't written code in a while now. I'm in product management, and I look at a lot of data. And this was primarily for those who work with data, to give them a single workspace where you can generate accurate predictions with the end goal of effective business outcomes. So we like to believe that Canvas solves every business problem out there, whether you're dealing with tabular data, we're dealing with images, we're dealing with text data, and then where you can actually leverage multiple things. If you are somebody who wants to do, take something which is readily available and use it, Canvas is there for you. Or if you want to somebody who wants to actually do something hands-on, play around with your data, understand it and explore your data better and build your own model, Canvas enables you to do that. So that's the promise of Canvas, which a lot of our customers have realized today across different verticals. And the extension of that towards democratization is about sharing and collaboration. Canvas also lets you share your ML models, your model artifacts with perhaps a technical audience. Perhaps you have a data science team in your organization who might want to look at what you have done, validate it, and give you a thumbs up before actually generating the most accurate prediction for your business problem. Last but not the least, but Canvas is like any other AWS service where you just pay when you use it. That means whenever you use Canvas, you pay. There are no license fees in Canvas. And the goal of Canvas, as I said, is to solve any business problems, use machine learning as a means to the final end of solving the business problem and achieving your effective outcomes. A long way, we have just started, but excited to be here, excited to show Canvas to you, a live demo, which you'll see in a few minutes. Here is Canvas.
That sounds awesome, Sham. So thank you for the quick overview about Canvas. And of course, as you said, we're going to be demoing SageMaker Canvas here in a moment, so that people that have never seen it before can actually get to experience it here a little bit. We like to give a sort of an overview first about the tool, and then we're going to get our hands dirty very soon. So we're also going to be talking about the updates. So today I actually want to focus a little bit on these updates. So can you tell us a little bit what has happened in the last, let's say, 12 months, the last 6 months with SageMaker Canvas, and what have been the latest releases and the latest updates?
So what have you been doing for the last 6 months or so? It's been a while since we were on SageMaker Fridays. We were on Fridays about 8 months back, if I remember right, when we were just about a 6-month-old service. But it's been quite a while. In AWS parlance, that's a lifetime, because things are changing so fast in the industry. AWS is innovating on behalf of our customers. We have gotten feedback from so many of you, and thank you, and please keep the feedback coming. Reach out to your AWS account teams. You have Davide's and my contacts here. You have our friendly moderators. So please let us know what you like and what you'd like to see in Canvas. So having said that, what have we done in the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months or so? We expanded Canvas from being just a service that can address tabular data. When we launched Canvas, Canvas used to address tabular data, be it a regression problem, a classification problem, or a time series forecasting problem, which is a bulk of our business analyst customers who have told us. But having said that, there is a set of people out there who want to work with images, who want to work with text data. What I'm referring to is computer vision and natural language processing, which you hear almost every day in today's parlance, right? So Canvas today actually extends the usage to these use cases of computer vision, natural language processing. And the fun part is, with these use cases, you have a set of pre-trained models. That means you really don't need to have a model building process right from scratch. We have built the model for you. We have done the hard work. You just have to use your data and leverage these pre-trained models. And you'll see that in the demo coming shortly. One thing which, when we talk about machine learning, is the foundation of machine learning is data. And as I said previously, this is for people who love to work with data. So what Canvas does is to give you abilities to understand your data better, to explore the data, and even find out the relationships between the features in your data. And as you'll see shortly, you could actually see what the impact of the features are towards each other, and how that impacts towards your model outcome and eventual business outcome that you're seeking towards. This is done both through a series of transformation steps, through visualizing the data, and then understanding what the data means before you proceed to building a model. Now, we have a sister product in AWS called Amazon QuickSight, which is also targeted towards the business analyst persona. Now, QuickSight is a service which helps you build and publish dashboards for understanding your business better. Now, what we heard from customers like you is that you have these two wonderful services that are targeting towards the same business user. What can I do to bring these two together? We heard that, and today you can actually take the predictions from Canvas, and with a click of a button, you can send them to QuickSight. You can build predictive dashboards so that you can go with a BI view of what has happened to a what will happen view, which is very, very critical for decision makers, for your CXOs to understand where the business is going, and to make the effective business decisions that you might need to do to improve your business. And again, moving on to the journey, one thing which we have heard from customers is also, this is all fine, but eventually I want to get my models from Canvas towards operationalization, towards production. How do I actually get these into production, right? And what we commonly call as MLOps. So we have taken some initial steps towards that, where again, the promise is to make it simple. The promise is to do it without writing a line of code. The promise is to do it with a single click. And as you'll see soon, that with a simple click, you can actually move these models into the production pipeline, where perhaps your ML engineering team can take from there. Depending on your organization, you can take it from there through the approval process and through the cataloging and push it to production. So the bottom line is we've come a long way. We've still just started. We have just skimmed the surface. We continue to hear from customers. Please give us the feedback. Please let us know as we continue through this journey. So Davide, can we see the product, please? I mean, I can't wait to see this product.
Absolutely. I think we've spoken enough, so let's get our ends dirty. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and show everyone how they can access Amazon SageMaker Canvas. So when we get started, well, first of all, in this case, I have my AWS SSO access. I can access my AWS Management Console from AWS SSO, or rather, as it is called these days, IAM Identity Centers. And then when I get into the Management Console, I go to SageMaker Canvas, and then I can open Canvas from here. Now, of course, I have it open already, so it will be easier, a little bit easier for the demo purposes. But also know that if you don't want to go through the AWS Management Console, then you can actually create an app in AWS SSO. So you can access SageMaker Canvas natively from AWS SSO or from another IDP of choice, whether it's Okta or another IDP. So once you are in Canvas, the very first thing you will be prompted with will be the ready-to-use models. So what are those ready-to-use models? As Sham, you were saying before, the very first thing you gotta do is that you gotta figure out what you're trying to solve, right? Well, you're here with the goal of the game is to solve a business problem, and doing so through machine learning. And to do so, we have decided to provide our customers inside Canvas with an easy way to use pre-trained model. Whether these pre-trained model are based on text, whether they're based on images, whether they're based on documents. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different problems that needed to be solved by AI and ML. And in this case, we have some like sentiment analysis, entities extraction, extraction of objects and detection of object in images, analysis of expenses, invoices, product orders, etc., etc. So here you can see that all of this, you might see some familiar names in this slide. You can actually see, for example, Amazon Comprehend, Amazon Recognition, Amazon Extract. And this is because these ready-to-use models are actually powered by our AI services. We've built something great, so we want people to use it and to use it in a very easy fashion. So Sham, actually, I have a question for you. Which one would you like me to demo first?
Hey, Davide, I would love to see images.
So let's go with the images then. The one that I will test first is object detection, for example. This is a use case which is pretty common across use cases. And I have this very nice image of London. I'm actually going to be in London very soon. So this is on theme because the AWS Summit in London is coming up very soon. But basically, what SageMaker Canvas allows me to do is that directly in this UI, I can use a model which is pre-trained to generate a single prediction or a batch prediction. So I can go ahead and upload an image. For example, in this case, I have this one preloaded, and I can actually detect objects inside this image, and it will be shown directly in the UI. So of course, this is a preloaded image, but what I can do is that I can just click on upload image, select another image that I might have lying around somewhere on my computer. So of course, as an Italian, the very first thing that I have to upload is an image of pasta. And you can actually go ahead and see here what is the prediction. So this is in fact food. This is in fact pasta. Well, my ancestor will not be too happy if I call these noodles, but of course there will be many different kind of products here. And you can actually take a look at the different, not just the different classes that are being predicted, but also the different confidence score that come with each of these predictions. I'm gonna let you choose another one. I have a favorite one, but I will not tell you which one.
Davide, let's go with your favorite.
Let's go with my favorite then. I love languages. I speak a bunch of languages. Well, actually, a bunch. I speak 4 languages, so I always go with the language detection as one of the use cases that I like to show. And also in this case, you can actually see that we can do NLP. So this is powered by Amazon Comprehend. So here I can write any sentence that I want. For example, in my home language, which is Italian. Ciao e benvenuti a questo seminario. And I can go ahead and generate prediction and correctly detects that it's Italian with 100% confidence. And of course, this is a single prediction.
Hey, Davide, sorry to interrupt you. You promised me to teach me Italian. The next time you meet, teach me some Italian.
So I will definitely do so. And in order to help you achieve that, I'm actually going to share with you a little bit of a data set that I wrote for exactly for this demo here. So for example, I have this file which contains a bunch of different sentences. Actually, let me upload this again. So for example, here I can upload a file from my own computer by dragging and dropping it into the screen here. And as you can see, this file contains a bunch of sentences in a bunch of different languages, including Italian. So your first exercise, Sham, will be to detect which one is Italian, which one is Spanish, which one is Portuguese, and which one is French. Now, you can cheat by using, for example, something like Amazon SageMaker Canvas, which does language detection. And in this case, I can just upload the whole file, ask Canvas to generate prediction. It's done. It's dead fast. It just took like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And I actually get the score of the different sentences. So here I can correctly detect French. J'aime lire des livres intéressants. It's Italian. Abbiamo visto un bel museo. And a bunch of other languages here are also available. So that is your next challenge. Try to detect this yourself. And of course, please, for the rest of the people in the audience, go ahead and play around with all these different models. One which is very interesting to play around with is also the expense analysis, where you can actually extract information such as invoice number, date, in a smart way, not just pure OCR, but also trying to understand what are the items that are contained inside an invoice, and those will be extracted in an automatic way.
Davide, that's awesome. But I have a question for you.
Please.
How do I use something without writing code for a use case that is commonly used? For example, if I'm applying for a loan, how do I know whether my loan will get approved or not?
That's a very good question, Sham. So as you can see, let's say that loan approval is not one of the pre-trained models, as you can see here. Mm-hmm. And luckily, because different banks have different requirements, so they might want to bring their own data to the table to make sure that they build the best model possible with information from their customers and with the processes that are set in their own banks. So in that case, as you can see, one of the key tenet of Canvas is not just to allow you to use pre-trained models, but also to create your own custom models so that you can solve virtually a limitless number of use cases. And since you brought up the example of the loans, why don't we try and go ahead and create a custom model exactly for that reason? So when I go
Perfect.
ahead and create a custom model, I actually have three data sets that I can use, or three kind of data sets to solve three different problem types. It can be a tabular data set. So I can have a CSV file, just like I've shown so far. It can be images in case I want to do an image classification problem, for example, just like before, detecting if it's pasta or not, if it's a pizza or not, or some other kind of more interesting use case, like, for example, detecting defects in a line of production. But I can also use long documents with the long text, which, for example, might be an interesting use case for ticketing routing systems in support cases, or it might be something like evaluating comments that we have received from our customers, or why not, for example, understanding if a description can actually be used in our web page by doing some form of moderation. So in the case of the loans, usually what I've seen with my customers is that they have data sets which are CSV files. So we're going to go with the predictive analytics. In this case, we can solve many different problems, but we can come back to the images and to the text another time. In this case, the first step is to actually give the model a name. In this case, it's going to be pretty straightforward, loans. And I will be creating my model just like that. So in here, the first thing that Canvas asks me to do is to choose a data set. So in this case, I'm lucky because I have already uploaded it before. But in case I wanted to use other data sets, then what I can do is that I can import new data sets from scratch. For example, here I can drag and drop a CSV file, and again, it will be uploaded from locally. But it can also come from many other different sources. It can come from Amazon S3, it can come from Redshift, it can come from Athena, or also from third-party software. We have a lot of customers who enjoy using something like Snowflake or something like Datadog, or why not, for example, pulling data from Salesforce, which might make a lot of sense in a customer journey use case, for example, or from SAP. So all they have to do is just set up the connection to their cluster, and they will be able to pull data from their sources. In this case, I'm just going to use a local upload, so that's going to be pretty much straightforward.
Hey, David, that's awesome to see the number of sources. The last I checked, we were 47 data sources and counting. So the request to the audience is, if you have a source that you need and you don't see it in the list of 47, please let us know, right? We continuously add sources of data, and we would love to hear from you.
That sounds awesome. As always, please, anything that you're seeing today and you want to have or you want to learn more about it, or if you want to give us a feedback about it, please do reach out. So whenever we choose one data set, so first of all, we don't have to just use a single file or a single table from Redshift, but we can also join multiple sources. So like in this case, I can just go ahead and drag and drop data sets so that I can do join operation. In this case, I'm not going to do one particularly because I don't have any data set that really needs me to join multiple data sets. But if I wanted to, I could just drag and drop them and create a join function between them. So what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to select a loans dataset that I have already uploaded previously. So in this case, you can see this is a CSV file. It contains information about the loans that have been taken by my customers, my virtual customer. This is, of course, a synthetic dataset. And it contains information such as the loan amount, the funded amount by investors, the loan term, the interest rate. So usual information that we would have when taking on a loan. I've recently taken one in order to buy a house, so I know pretty well how these things work. But you can see all the different information being available here: total credit lines, the employment length, the employer title, etc., etc. One of the most important things is actually what we're going to be calling the target variable. So in this case, our target is the loan status, which means if a loan will be completely be fully paid, if it will be charged off, or if it's still ongoing, so it's still a current loan. So I like this data set. I'm going to go ahead and select it. So what happens when I select the dataset? So Canvas pulls that into the memory of the application. And as you see, it loads a visualization of that dataset. So what does a visualization mean? It means that I can start doing a EDA. And EDA is one of the topics that Sham brought up at the beginning as one of the things we've updated in the service. So we've given our customers the capability to, first of all, explore our data. That's the E in EDA. So you can actually try and visualize the distribution of data. For example, what is how many of these verification status are actually not verified versus source verified, how the total credit lines are distributed, or the purpose of this loan, etc., etc. I can then do additional visualization because a lot of customers have been asking for different ways to visualize data. Distribution is great, but maybe it doesn't tell the whole story. And so here I can actually go ahead and create my own visualization in the form of a scatter plot, a bar chart, or a box plot. So let's try something here. If I want to see how, for example, the annual income is distributed against the loan amount, now beware, this is not going to make a lot of sense, but this is just for us to actually visualize a little bit how the plot is going to look like. So in this case, you can see here are a couple of data points. The sample here is pretty limited to 100 rows, but you can see how the distribution happens of loan amount with respect to annual income. And if I want to see how the loan status actually impacts or how it is distributed with respect to the samples that I'm seeing, I can actually go ahead and color this plot a little bit to visualize where the current loans are, where the paid off, the charged off loans are with respect to the fully paid. And of course, with 100 rows, we can't understand really so much. So we're going to go ahead and bump it up to 1,100 or to 2,500, whatever the maximum is. And you can actually see how this visualization starts to fill up a little bit, and we can see more information about our data. Another very common thing that a lot of customers have been asking about is to actually understand how each of the features is correlated one to another. So for example, that is why we have added also in terms of analytics, in terms of capabilities for visualization, we've added correlation metrics. So you can go ahead and build your own correlation metric, and this will be done as you saw on the flight. It's just a matter of clicking on the button. And here you can start to visualize, for example, what is the impact of one feature or what is the correlation of one feature on another. This is a pretty common use case. This is a pretty common strategy and technique by data scientists out there to understand, to make sure that they are not using information which is redundant in their training of their model. So even if I'm not yet training a model, I can already see that there might be some correlation between something like an installment and the loan amount, or between the installment and the funded amount by investors. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that I have to remove completely these two columns or one of the two columns. It's more about knowing that there might be a risk of a high correlation, which might give away information about my prediction. So then, as a business analyst, I can bring my knowledge to the table and actually say, hey, it makes sense to keep them because even though they are correlated, they are still referring to completely different things, like in this case. So I have to keep them both to make sure that my model is trained the right way.
Hey, Davide, a question for you.
Yeah.
Correlation is one of my favorite topics, right? But can I do both numeric and categorical? Can I mix them up, or can I do one or the other?
So what we can do, as you can see here, that we are basically building on all the columns on both numeric and categorical. So
Mhm.
this will be something that is taken care of by Canvas behind the scenes. So you will be able to understand a little bit what are the different correlation. As you go ahead and play around with the different values, go ahead and choose the ones that actually make sense for you, so you can actually understand, hey, can I actually analyze correlation between categories, and what does that mean in the first place? So what is the representation that gets done behind the scenes between something like grade and subgrade, so that then at that point I can actually go ahead and compute a correlation between these values.
Awesome. Thank you.
So one other things that we can do in Canvas is, for example, to transform a little bit our data set, right? So we can do data preparation, we can do data transformation, and we have a couple of strategies out there available for you to go ahead and play around with. So for example, you can go ahead and extract information from a datetime variable. For example, from something like issued on, I can actually go ahead and extract the week of the year, the day of the year, the quarter. Then of course it will not always make sense, and that is why we don't do it by default, but it might actually bring new information to the table. Imagine that you're working on a supply chain use case, and it's really important to understand which quarter of the year you're talking about, because if it's closer to Christmas, for example, at least here in Europe, then you know for sure that your package is going to be late, because that's what happens with with Christmas here in Europe. All the packages are late. But of course, according to the different use case, you might have a different need for different values. So do go ahead and play around with the different values and create your own model recipe. So do all the transformation, just like in this case, extracting date time, removing rows by a specific value, replacing, for example, something like an outlier. If I have to go here, if I can go here and select the loan amount, I can actually tell it to replace either missing values or to replace outliers. Now, of course, you as a business analyst, you probably have a definition of what an outlier is for you. So in that case, you can actually specify either a standard deviation or a custom range, so that you can replace this value with whatever you want. It can be a min-max range, it can be something more custom. So please do go ahead and play around with this. And play also around with the formulas. So as you can see here, the functions. Here, what you can do is that you can actually create a new value from scratch, let's say, by combining values from other features. So for example, if I want to multiply the number of calls by the minute per call on average in order to get a total of minutes in a telecommunication use case, then I can actually just go ahead and write here a formula, something like sum of a value of some employment length. Of course, that doesn't really make a lot of sense here, with another column, something like funded by amount investors. And Canvas will go ahead and generate, we'll do an example, we generate these this computation, and will show you the outcome of what the result will be. So in this case, if I just go ahead and say funded amount plus employment length, it will take a second and it will generate a preview here that will show me information about the operation of the sum that I'm trying to compute here. So please do go ahead and go crazy with writing your own custom function, whether that's a square root, whether it's a sum, whether it's an absolute value. You can of course go ahead and create your own new feature that will provide new intelligence to your data. So once all my transformation are being done here, I've done my analysis, I've done my transformations, I've done whatever I want. Now it's the time to actually go ahead and generate some predictions, okay? So of course, we've all gone through this in last year's video about the capabilities of SageMaker Canvas. But here, in a nutshell, what I can do is that I can select my target. In this case, my target is the loan status, because that's what I want to predict. Automatically, Canvas will detect which kind of problem we're trying to solve. In this case, it's a multi-class category prediction, because it has 3 or more categories. As you can see, here are the 3 categories. And then you will see a new ribbon here. This wasn't here last year. So this is data validation. So this is something that happens behind the scenes, and it is done for you by SageMaker Canvas. So what happens is that Canvas tries to detect issues in your data set. And these issues can be very different things. So please do go and look for the Canvas documentation to get a full list of the data validation techniques that are being applied. But example might be having too many missing values, having too skewed values, or too many outliers in your data set, or some other data validation techniques that I actually suggest you take a look and find out directly in the documentation.
Hey, Davide, does Canvas actually guide you to do what with your data? Because real data has issues. We all know that. How does that happen?
Yeah, definitely. We have been lucky here. My dataset is clean, so no issues have been found. But then what happens when you actually find some issues? So in our case, what happens is that when Canvas detects the some issues, first of all, it will tell you, hey, I've detected 1, 2, 5 issues in your dataset. Then you click through the button that will pop up, and you can actually see which issues have been detected. So just like in the case that I was saying before, something like too many missing values. So Canvas will not automatically fix those issues for you. However, what it will do is that it will suggest you ways that you can actually solve these issues. In the case of too many missing values, it might be something like, hey, why don't you go ahead and drop the lines that contain missing values? Or why don't you go ahead and replace these missing values with the closest neighbor, or for example, with a fixed value, which might be 0, might be whatever, some random number that you come up with. And why we decided to do that, it's because every customer will have a different vision and a different way to deal with this data, with these data risks, with these data issues. So we'd rather have you take the action according to your domain knowledge on how you want to solve these challenges. Our goal is trying to make sure that you don't train a model by not being aware that there might be issues in your data. So it's up to you to figure out how to solve them.
Thank you.
So now, what is the next step? Sham, you probably know this.
Okay, I have my data. I have cleaned it up. I have transformed it. I want to build a model.
Exactly, correct. So you have two ways to build a model. You have what's called as a quick build. It's a model training process that takes somewhere between 2 and 10 minutes according to the dataset size. In our case, it's going to be pretty fast. It's going to be 5 minutes. So I'm actually going to spin it up while I talk. While the other option that I haven't chosen, it's the standard build. So the standard build is actually something that takes a little bit more time. According to the dataset size, it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes to 2 hours. I think the top that I've seen with customers has been 3-4 hours, more or less, with very large data sets. But the goal here being that what it does is that it trains for you multiple machine learning models. It tries to combine them when doing ensembling. It tries to do tuning on top of them to try many different hyperparameters. And so basically what it does is that it goes through a process called AutoML. And the goal of that is that after this training and this tuning has happened, and of course, we have also generated the column impact, and more about that in a second. But basically, after it has gone through this main iteration and this heavy computation, etc., you will be sure, especially in the standard build, that you will get the best model that you could get with statistical machine learning models and with some deep learning models. So we do all the magic behind the scenes for you. The only thing you need to care about is just putting the data into the tool, selecting what is your target, clicking a button, and then all the rest of the magic will be done by Sagemaker Canvas behind the scenes.
I love magic.
So, and since you love magic, here I have another magic trick for you. So with the magic of Hollywood, I actually have trained before my model. So would you look at that? So this model is already ready. It has been trained behind the scenes. I've run this morning, so now it's all fresh and ready to be used. And I can already take a look at some of the informations and even a new feature of SageMaker Canvas. So now at a single glance, you can see all the model versions that you have built, because of course you can build multiple model version. So model versioning is enabled by default on SageMaker Canvas. You can take a look at which model version was trained, when it was trained, on what it was trained, and what are the performances of this model. So in this case, it's 83%. Actually, let me go back here a second. It's 83% So that's pretty good. It means that it predicts correctly the category 83% 18% of the time, which is a pretty good metric. But now I know that my dataset was a little bit skewed at the beginning, right? There was a little bit of imbalance between the different features. So I might want to deep dive a little bit more, and we have a nice toggle there that shows the advanced metrics, and now I can take a look better at something like precision, recall, or F1 score. So this one will give me more information about how, for example, if I hover over F1, it will tell me that F1 score is a balanced measure of accuracy that combines the recall and precision score and takes class balance into account. And in fact, I can see here that the score is not that great, but mainly because my dataset was a little bit unbalanced again. So when I go back at it, what I might want to do is that I might want to play around with some of these values, maybe undersample the majority class, maybe oversample the minority class, and play around with those values.
Hey, Davide, this is important. I just wanted to add here that we've seen a lot of citizen data scientists. I know that's not a formal title, but a lot of companies use that. Have told us that how can I dive deep into the model metrics, right? I would like to understand better. And that was the reason we gave customers this option that if you want to go under the hood a little bit, and then, of course, go back and transform your data more, tune it more if you need it, auto ML under the hood, and hopefully you'll get the result that you desire.
That's great. In order to further foster the collaboration between people that might know even more about data science than a citizen data scientist, so for example, to make sure that business analysts can collaborate with a data scientist, we've also chosen to, first of all, be able to share models from SageMaker Canvas to SageMaker Studio. So I was quickly looking before at some of the comments in the StreamYard application. But basically what I've seen is that someone was asking about, hey, how do I take a look at the code that is happening behind the scenes, or how do I change some of the code? As you can see here, there's a little share button. And when you share the model with SageMaker Studio, then inside SageMaker Studio, you can actually see everything that has happened behind the scenes. What was the code that led to the model creation? What have been the performances, the metrics, the artifacts, the parameters, basically everything that you will need, plus even the capability to change some of the data preparation steps and change maybe even the model altogether, and then push it back to SageMaker Canvas so that a user in SageMaker Canvas will receive the new model and will be able to use it from there. However, let's think that, for example, in this case, I'm pretty much happy about what this model is in terms of performances. And I can see here that, for example, it says model registry. There's a new tab here that wasn't here before, and it's model registry. So what we allow to do is that we allow to register a model against SageMaker model registry. Now, this is really important. Everybody's talking about MLOps. MLOps is a very important step in the machine learning workflow. It is what defines the machine learning workflow in the first place. So we've decided to give the business analyst the capability to register model against model registry, so that then a data scientist can actually go ahead and look into SageMaker Studio, analyze the models inside model registry, see that this was a model that was published by a business analyst, and then decide whether he wants to approve it or not. As you can see here, it says that it's pending approval, but once I receive the approval from SageMaker Studio, then I will actually see it as approved, and then I can go ahead and use it for whatever I want. I can decide to share it back to have further, let's say, collaboration. I can decide to open it up and, for example, further, of course, it's very easy to use Canvas. We can actually go ahead and decide to use this model to generate predictions, right? So like in this case, I uploaded another dataset and I've generated predictions on top of this dataset. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at this? So here I had another dataset with all the information about other additional customers. I can actually go ahead and see here what the prediction by my model was generated and what is the probability of said prediction. Now, it's always important to take a look at the confidence score of a prediction, because we're not going to just going to go blindly with the prediction that comes from a machine learning model. We want to make sure that our humans comes into the loop if the prediction is too low, so that we might want to drive some machine learning intelligence, and we want actually drive some business intelligence thanks to machine learning. So we will be leveraging this probability prediction to make sure that we actually take the right decisions. Another thing that we can do is that we can use our model and load our model directly in the Canvas app to do the so-called what-if scenarios. So what-if scenarios are a way for us to actually go ahead and play around with the different values of the different predictions and try to see how different values impact different predictions. So in this case, once the model loads, I will be able to go ahead and change some of the values in the features and see how changing something in my feature here, of course, will have an impact of my prediction, and I can just go ahead and take a look at what the impact of this prediction will be. So if I go ahead here and raise my loan term to something like, I don't know, something like 99, that sounds like an awful lot.
You don't want it
And
for
I
so long,
increase.
Davide.
Well, last time I tried with something even higher than that, so this one scares me a little bit less. But in this case, for example, I augmented also the loan amount, and maybe I change my verification status to be source verified and the rent to mortgage. And I can see here that with respect to the average prediction, Canvas tells me, hey, you have made 4 changes. Why don't you go ahead and update and generate a new prediction? So it's going to take a second here. In the meanwhile, I can already see that the feature importance has recomputed. So that means that there would be a different, probably there would be a different prediction, or at least a different confidence in the prediction. So let's give it a second. This is really important. Think about being on the phone, for example, with a customer, and on the flight, you have to explain why the prediction was yes or no on something that you have done with that. Or, for example, if by giving them an offer, what is the risk of them churning from your offer? And in this case, you can go ahead, play around with these different values. And in this case, if I raise, for example, the loan term to 99 and I change the values that I told before, then it's more likely, a little bit more likely that it will be charged off, but still the main prediction will be fully paid. So we haven't changed much, but at least we have seen an impact on the confidence scores here. Sham, I know you're a huge fan of Amazon QuickSight. I was expecting you to ask me a question about Amazon QuickSight. How come that doesn't happen?
No, I was thinking I'm interrupting you too much, Davide. But QuickSight, love it. Love the analysis. Walk us through it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know I'm already running out of time. As always, I talk too much, but I'm going to try and do my best. So, what is Amazon QuickSight? Amazon QuickSight, and I'm actually going to show it so that you guys can take a look at that. Amazon QuickSight is a way to create smart business intelligence dashboard in a pay-to-use format. So basically what it means is that you're going to be able to create your analysis, you're going to be able to upload your data sets, and you're going to be able to build your dashboards on top of your analysis and on top of your data sets, even leveraging techniques from the machine learning. So for example, if you have, like in this case, you have a very nice line plot here, then what you can do is that you can add forecasting to your line plot and trying to see how your time series evolve across time. You can do anomaly detection to, once again, check in your time series, for example, if there's any anomaly value, and try to also explain why those anomalies are generated. Or, for example, you can also, as you can see from all the way on the top here, you can actually go ahead and ask natural language questions about your data. So you can ask QuickSight to ask questions about your data like, hey, what are the top 5 customers who have asked for the highest loan amount in the last 3 months? And then what QuickSight will do is it will understand your question, it will map the different components to the different features of your data set, and it will be able to visualize these predictions as, let's say, as a plot. As you can see here, I've built a very basic dashboard. I'm by no means an expert of Amazon QuickSight, but still it looks good enough, right? And one of the things that I can do is that from the predictions that I've generated in Canvas, I can actually go ahead and send this prediction to Amazon QuickSight. So for example, in my case, I can actually go ahead and insert here my my users. Now, don't worry about this strange name, but this is a federated user, so ignore that for a second. But I can choose the user for the QuickSight user in this screen, and I can go ahead and send this prediction to Amazon QuickSight. As you can see, Canvas will take care of taking this prediction, storing them in an S3 bucket that is being accessed by QuickSight. And then when I go into QuickSight here, I can actually see that in my datasets, I now have available a new Canvas batch inference. Now I've done it before, so that's why you see it twice. But here you can see a new prediction having been generated and a new dataset being sent to Amazon QuickSight. Now that my dataset has been sent here to Amazon QuickSight, I can actually go ahead and use it to create a new analysis, for example. So I can go ahead and explore and visualize my dataset. Or more interestingly, what I can do is that I can go into my previously built analytics. Here I have the dashboard that I was showing you before. Let me make sure that this fits into a window. Then I can go ahead and change my dataset. I can replace my dataset to use the Canvas batch inference that I've just generated. So then what happens is that now here I have unmapped, an unmatched data type that is actually not really true. But now what it's telling me is that my dataset has been replaced, the field list and visuals have been updated. So automatically now I've updated my view by using the prediction that have been generated by Canvas. So now I can see that with the new prediction, I can actually see that the loan amount fully paid has gone up. I have a much higher fully paid because then my prediction have generated a much higher value of fully paid with respect to the ones that I had before, and the rest of the visualization without having to rebuild an analysis from scratch have actually all been updated. So you can actually go ahead now and give it a try yourself. I mean, Canvas is accessible. It does not need any license. It can be used directly from your Amazon SageMaker console. So please do go and give it a try. Start with the pre-trained models as usual. Then create your own custom model in case, and then go ahead and see how the connection with QuickSight works. And that was pretty much it, my demo. So Sham, what do you think about it?
Oh, I'm going to be subjective. I love it. I love Canvas. I love the demo. So thank you, Davide. A couple of points I wanted to call out. You said you can access Canvas from the SageMaker console. I want to tell our audience that you can also do it directly from your browser. If you have single sign-on configured from your favorite SAML 2.0 tool, your admin should be help you to give you a pre-signed URL where you can sign it from the browser. Additionally, you can start Canvas for free. There's a free tier for Canvas where you start, play around, and then get the feel of Canvas. Last but not the least, Davide did a beautiful demo, but the key point is he did it on a single workspace. He didn't write a single line of code. He was just doing it as if he was playing Office spreadsheet. So that's the power of Canvas. As mentioned earlier, we have just started the journey. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us, spending your Friday morning, afternoon, or evening with us. And we look forward to hearing from you and working with you in this wonderful journey of ML democratization. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.